City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Good evening and welcome to our October 8th regular City Council meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order. Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Dodge.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Escobar.
Here.
Councilmember Sowers.
Here.
Councilmember Leidy.
Here.
Councilmember Downing.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica.
Here.
Councilmember Wilford.
Here. Would you stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Heather, is there any response to citizen inquiry this evening?
Yes, there is, Mayor Dodge. I'd like to share with you the September stats from our CRM system, and in September we received 89 requests. 78 of those requests were closed. The method by which those were requested, 62% came from the city website, 18% came from an employee phone or email. An employee entered them into the system, and then 20% of those requests came from the actual mobile app. The top 4 requests included general code enforcement concerns, graffiti, new trash or recycling cart requests, and then an abandoned vehicle. In terms of closing those requests out, 46 of them were closed within 3 days, 14 within 4 to 7 days, and then the remaining 10 were beyond 8 days for closeout. So just a few stats for you. I think we're continuing to see a bit of an increase month by month, and we'll continue to push out and promote the use of the CRM via our different social media channels and the Connection newsletter.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? Thank you, Heather. From council, are there any agenda additions or deletions? None? No. Okay. And I will come down. We have 3 proclamations this evening. Let me read it to you. We have Steve Gosselin with us tonight to receive the proclamation for National Fire Prevention Week. He is the Division Chief of Fire Prevention for Northglenn. Correct? Correct. That correct? All right, thank you. Whereas Fire Prevention Week was established as the result of the Great Chicago Fire on October 9, 1871, and whereas the loss of lives and property caused by fire continues throughout the United States, and whereas the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, Look, Listen, Learn, Be Aware, Fire Can Happen Anywhere, strives to educate the public on effective ways people can reduce their risk of fire and be prepared in the event of one. And whereas the City of Northglenn wishes to support and participate in National Fire Prevention Week activities, now therefore I, Carol Dodge, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the week of October 7th through the 13th, 2018 as National Fire Prevention Week in the City of Northglenn, and urge all residents to protect their homes and families by heeding the important safety messages of Fire Prevention Week and to practice fire prevention activities everywhere. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 8th day of October 2018. Actually, I need to sign this and I'll give it to you, but if you would like to say a few words, please.
I just want to say thank you for the city in recognizing this important week. It's actually the longest running public safety and health observations in our history. It's been going on for almost 100 years now, 94 years. And we kicked off, North Metro kicked off its week with an open house at our Station 63, where we had many community members, kids come through. We gave away hundreds of smoke alarms and CO alarms, so it was a great success. They all enjoyed the station tours and the fire safety house we had, so it was great. So I appreciate Mayor and Council acknowledging this important week.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you. Our second proclamation is in honor of Business Appreciation Week. And Economic Development Director Debbie Tuttle will be receiving it tonight. Whereas the City of Northglenn is proud to have a dynamic base of businesses and industries that contribute to our local economy, and whereas the City of Northglenn is made up of a strong entrepreneurial small business community of more than 1,000 businesses that employ thousands of individuals that strengthen our economy and community, and whereas the City of Northglenn recognizes that businesses play an essential role in preserving the economic health and well-being of our city to build a viable, thriving community, and whereas the City of Northglenn recognizes the many charitable, civic, and philanthropic contributions made by businesses and encourages their continued participation in the development of our city, and whereas the City Council wishes to acknowledge the existing businesses and industry sectors and express its gratitude to these community partners, and whereas the city's goal is to develop a positive business climate to help our companies thrive and be successful. Now, therefore, I, Carol Dodge, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 14th through the 20th, 2018 as Business Appreciation Week in the City of Northglenn, and encourage the community to join together in thanking Northglenn businesses for their many contributions to the quality of life in our community and the economic well-being of our city. Would you like to say anything?
Mayor, City Council, I'd just like to thank you all for your support with our business community. As you know, they are so important. And next week we will be having our 7th annual Business Appreciation Breakfast, where we'll be honoring 9 businesses, showcasing them, but celebrating all of our businesses in Northglenn. So again, thank you very much. And shop Northglenn.
Thank you, Debbie. Debbie, I didn't sign that one.
While she's signing that, I just want to thank you for everything that you do for the small businesses here in Northglenn. Having one myself, without somebody as supportive as you, I don't think would be as far as we are. So I really do appreciate everything.
It's true.
Ditto. All right. Our last proclamation is for National Bullying Prevention Month, and it will be accepted by Commander Osgood from our Northglenn PD Department. Evening, sir. Whereas bullying is physical, verbal, sexual, or emotional harm or intimidation intentionally directed at a person or group of people. And whereas bullying is also shunning, alienation, and social exclusion, or the act of rejecting someone from sports or interpersonal interactions. And whereas bullying occurs in neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, places of business, and through technology such as the internet and cell phones. And whereas various researchers have concluded that bullying is the most common form of violence affecting millions of Americans annually, and whereas thousands of Colorado children, adolescents, and adults are affected by bullying annually, and whereas targets of bullying are more likely to acquire physical, emotional, and learning problems, and people who are repeatedly bullied often fear such activities as riding the bus, going to school or work, and attending community activities. And whereas people who bully are at greater risk of engaging in more serious violent behaviors. And whereas people who witness bullying often feel less secure, more fearful, and intimidated. Now, therefore, I, Carol Dodge, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 2018 as National Bullying Prevention Month in the City of Northglenn and encourage all schools, students, parents, recreation programs, religious institutions, and community organizations to engage in a variety of awareness and prevention activities designed to make our communities safer for all people. dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 8th day of October 2018. Commander?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We take bullying very seriously, the men and women of the Northglenn Police Department. If you're a victim of bullying, please contact us. There are some things we can do. Some bullying is criminal in nature. We have many programs through our school resource officers and our community relations officers also. There are some different things on our webpage to how to contact us. Anytime you feel you're a victim of bullying, please contact us and we'll see what we can do to help.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the recipients for accepting these tonight. Our next item tonight is public invited to be heard. 5 minutes per speaker. Statements shall be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Is there anyone who would like to come forward this evening? Heather, want to come forward? Hi, please come forward. Did you sign in on the sign-in
did,
sheet?
yes.
Okay. Can you state your name and?
Zach Taylor.
Good evening.
So I'm going to take my time to talk about the water conservation program that's up for discussion later tonight. I was the one who, I guess, originally brought it up and just inquired about it. I had a project in my yard where I was replacing my turf with artificial turf and was doing research and looking for if there were any opportunities for savings, obviously, on it, and did find that there was other cities that's been researched in the memo I think that the council has been provided. So I just wanted to talk and actually ask a couple of questions about that hopefully can get answered later. So I guess the first, I did have a question that hopefully can be addressed later, which is in the memo, there was a statement there that the rebate would not apply to turf replacement with artificial turf. So I did want to just hear what the reasoning for that was, because obviously that's what I chose, so a little bit curious about that. I did provide pictures because my project's done at this point that I was going to provide to the council to review. And I guess just give my opinion on it a little bit. With the Colorado, facing water issues more and more, it seems these days, drier summers, hotter summers, and looking for ways to save water. I know that there are programs in place currently with the sprinkler heads and the boxes that can be obtained through the city of Northglenn. And obviously this is a more substantial, possibly more expensive, but also a hopefully more impactful possible change to how we can do things. I guess, let's see. Yeah, I guess I was just going to say, I know it's potentially more costly because it deals with more area, but I don't know if I didn't see it as part of the memo, but maybe some of that information about how much it might cost the city could be gleaned from other cities who have implemented such programs. As it's more costly to implement, it's probably fewer people are actually willing to do it. But it is something that I think hopefully can impact water use throughout the city as maybe more people go to a xeriscape or a no water solution to their lawns. So as for myself, we've gotten positive feedback from our lawn, from neighbors. I think that maybe one of the reasons that the stipulation was recommended not to utilize artificial turf in this would be the idea that people are going to go put AstroTurf on their yards, and maybe if such a consideration was given to a rebate, there could be stipulations on what type of products would be allowable, so that the result is a good-looking yard instead of an eyesore, and so that was the intent. So I don't have anything else. I guess I brought some pictures, so I'll distribute those. You guys can look at them if you're interested. And thank you all for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. So Zach, are you going to share your address with us so that we can all drive by and see your cool artificial turf?
It is on the sign-in sheet. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
that's perfect.
Yeah, I'd welcome anybody to come by and look at it.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you did.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for coming forward. Yeah. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Good evening.
Bear with me, I'm pretty nervous. I don't do public
Oh,
speaking.
don't be nervous.
Heather Travis, 109 Muriel Drive, Northglenn. Basically, my concern is, I guess, the safety in my area. I've noticed the influctuation of traffic and just overall people. I'm not sure what's going on with Highline and Melody. It looks like the apartment complex might have gone to permit parking, and now there's a bunch of cars parking on Highline. You can't even get 2 cars down that road anymore. It's a huge safety concern. Also, between Northglenn Drive and Muriel Drive, I did a traffic calming application. Evidently, it got lost. I'll have to do another one. But last year, I counted in my intersection at one day at Muriel and Northglenn Drive 70 cars. And there was almost 2 head-on collisions. I can't take my 5-year-old outside to ride a bike anymore. That's the one thing I loved about Northglenn, was the outdoorsiness. I have to now put his bike in my car and go to a park, and that kind of loses a lot. I've learned to ride my bike on the city streets, and I think that every child should. And then also, my concerns were down at Stookie Elementary, and I know that all schools in our area have huge concerns with a lot of new parents that don't know what they're doing. But I would really like to say thank you to Northglenn Police Department. These last couple of days have been amazing. I've never felt more secure in taking my child to school. And I've noticed that there's also huge traffic concerns, and that there's traffic people, I guess, or workers that are trying to fix or whatever's going on with Stookie. So hopefully whatever's going on can be resolved sooner than later. And then, I don't know, I guess it's just more like the broken window policy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. I've noticed that a lot of our residents aren't taking it serious as far as taking pride in their residence. The poly carts have strict rules. They're supposed to be behind fenced areas. I don't see it. I've seen an RV on my street now for 4 months. And then right across from it is a dumpster that's been there for 4 months. It's really narrow to get a car through there, let alone UPS or FedEx, which fly through our neighborhood as well. There's a lot of disabled and elderly people that are now resorting to home health care. And our physical therapists can't even take our residents outside to do their physical therapy for safety reasons. So, I don't know, I guess I'm just asking that maybe there's a lot more that we could do for our residents and for our young educators. I don't know, I'm just a resident, I'm just looking to you guys maybe if I could put a bug in your ear to help me out. Thank you.
So a couple of things. I was wondering, so you noticed a higher presence of the PD department?
Yes.
By Stookie? Yes.
Oh my gosh, and around the surrounding areas.
That's great.
Yeah, currently right now you guys are working on the bike path that goes under I-25. That has been a pain in the butt. We have homeless that are living in the canal. We have issues underneath that that bridge or whatnot. Ever since construction's been going on, I haven't seen anything. I can tell you in the past that bypass or that underway has caused a lot of criminal activity. I take care of my grandma and my uncle who live right across the street, and one day I was mowing and I almost mowed over an officer's ammunition clip. He was in pursuit of an assailant and he lost his clip. It's a good thing I found it. I returned it, you know, but I don't know that other people would. You know, I've seen an eviction and the property that was in the home stayed out for 2 weeks. That invites a criminal element to our neighborhood, and I'm not okay with it.
Well, thank you for caring so much about the community, and I think that all of these problems that you've brought up are things that we've kind of discussed a little bit, but definitely we will bring them forward and have more discussion on how to make Northglenn a better place and safer place to live. So appreciate you coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you for, so the other thing that I did want to mention is, have you ever used the Access Northglenn app that we have to report any of the issues that you've noticed?
No, in the past though, I noticed it was always like, I know that they're like, do you want police contact? We've asked no. I know that the police are busy, and when it's minimal crime or we've just seen somebody suspicious, it doesn't take precedence usually. And when we try to be anonymous, it doesn't really work, and then, you know, there's neighborhood retaliation.
Maybe not for the PD related items, but when you see, like you said, the RV that's been parked there for so long, those types of things would go directly to the zoning and code department. And I think that you could remain anonymous by using the app, but you could at least try it, because it really does bring results. I've noticed when I use it, they're on it and they either solve the problem or they get back to you why they can't solve the problem. So it's a really good tool to use, and I'm glad that we have it for the residents. So
Either your Apple iStore or in the Google Playhouse or something, whatever they call it. It's really easy to download and use.
Playhouse.
It's not a playhouse, but I play in there. What did I say?
I don't know what it's called on Google.
Can I just say yes? So Heather, we'll be circling back on the issue with not having the traffic calming. I think you heard from someone on staff, but city manager and I will stay in the loop on it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward this evening? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we will move to the Legislative Policy Committee update.
Yeah, so we did meet tonight, and we really just kind of went through our policy statement one more time. You guys are going to be seeing it, I believe, in our next study session. So we, added more topics, and so we're looking forward to your guys' feedback when we look at that as a council, and then we'll approve it later on this month. We did talk briefly about trying again to do a legislative reach out to those that represent, obviously, the city of Northglenn. We're going to look for something towards the end of November after the election, so it'll only be those that are elected. And then, keeping it simple, going back to a dinner, approach. So we're looking at maybe pizza or something that somewhere local. We could hang out, know each other. We'll tell them about Northglenn, and they could tell us a little bit about, how they could focus on municipal issues. So, if we could get there. So yeah, it was a great meeting, and then we'll get your guys' feedback on the policy statement.
Okay, sure. All right, thank you. Next, we have the financial report, August 2018 update with Jason Loveland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. All right, we'll jump into...
Hello, Mr. Loveland.
Hello. I'll start off with sales and use tax update. Year-to-date sales and use tax reported an increase of $398,132, which is approximately 3.2%. Last year at this time, we were up 1.9%. So from 2016 through 2018, we're seeing some good trends on that front. Specifically, within that sales and use tax item, the accommodations tax is up 10%. Our one-time audit revenue through August is up 17%. And then sales tax is up 4%. On a couple of downward trending items, or the auto use tax is down 2%, and food tax is down 2%. And we've talked about the last couple of months. The marijuana tax is up 2% through the period as well. Then I'll jump into the fund summaries. Total revenue in the general fund is at $17.2 million, and that's up from $15.8 million at the same time last year, or about 8.5%. You'll see in the taxes row, total taxes are up 8%. Property taxes up just over 26%. And that was planned and budgeted through the assessment last year on home values. And you'll see intergovernmental revenues are up 20%. Licenses and permits are up 45%. We've seen a pretty good spike in building permits and right-of-way permits, which makes up a majority of that difference of $205,000 year over year. And then the other revenues you'll see at the bottom are up about 11%, and that's largely due to investment earnings kind of being on the rise, which is a good thing. On the next page, the general fund, we have the expenditures broken down by department. The spending rate, in that middle shaded column, should be around 66% since we're 2/3 of the way through the year. We're always a little bit delayed on spending, so although there might be some percentage differences year over year within departments, you'll see technology, for one, is up 29%. The actual spending rate's at 66%, which is in line with what we'd expect for budget. We want to keep in mind, that we're spending what we had planned, and that spending rate really is the indicator for us as we review the financials. So total expenditures, like I said, $15.6 million versus $14.9, which is up 4%. Everything's falling in line with the budget department-wide. Nothing necessarily to report that's concerning or any anomalies that we see at this point. I'll skip ahead to the water fund. You'll see total revenues in this fund are at $7.1 million, which is up just under 10% year over year. Total expenditures are $4.1, which is down 12%. Again, we talk about the capital spending within the fund. Quarterly, we take a look at a more detailed report and presentation, how actual line item personnel, supplies, purchase services are lining up, and through August, those are in line with what we would expect. At the bottom, we looked at water usage, which makes up a large portion of the operating revenues. That revenue is up 8.67%. Consumption through August is up 4.6% citywide, which is driving, with a new fee structure at the start of the year, plus consumption going up. That is why the 8.67% increase is there. And then you'll see the food sales tax is down 2% also. So the next fund is the wastewater fund. Total revenues are at $2.4 million. That's up about 8.5% year over year, and then expenditures are at 2.1, which that looks like a large decrease because of capital projects, down 62%, but the total expenditures in the fund are in line with expectations. And then, the stormwater fund, total revenues are at $269,207. I'll call that flat. It's up 1.6% or $4,300. And then total expenditures are $151,335. Again, the spending rate in the stormwater fund is consistent with what we would expect. And then the last fund, the sanitation fund, total revenues are at just under $1.2 million. That's down slightly, about $27,000 year over year. And you will notice at the top where we break out charges for services, recycling revenue, we're really not seeing anything change on that front. That's down 83% year over year. So total expenditures in the fund are at $813,528. That's up 9% on the year. Part of that is recycling and the fees that are charged to process the recycling that we're delivering. So. The next page, the marketplace sales tax history, you'll see, so we're always a month behind. So July, you'll see I guess I'll call it purple. Column shows an increase in July at the marketplace, which is a positive sign. Northglenn sales tax history on the next page. Total sales tax was down in July slightly. And then, let's see, on page 10, the geographic code areas that we take a look at, you'll see, the marketplace is up slightly through July. Some of the larger areas, the Malley Center's down, less than 1%, and then Hillcrest is down just about 5%. You'll see the total change for our geocode areas are positive 2.47%, which that's positive. Right now, the projected CPI, the Denver Boulder CPI, the projection is, depending on who you ask, somewhere between 3% and 3.2%. So locally, we might be a little bit behind when you kind of take those CPI inflation numbers coupled with kind of our geocode areas. That doesn't mean that spending's not happening. Some of them might just be online. So we kind of can see how those trends work. So that within the city in these geographic areas, we're up, 2.5%, and overall we're up 3.6%. So you can see little hints of, the shift in consumer habits through these percentages, in my opinion. On the next page, 11, our cash investments through August, we're at $66.7 million, and that's up from 57.5 in the prior year. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
Questions?
All right.
Jason, I have a question.
Sure.
So when you talked about the online sales, are we receiving checks from Amazon and those people? I know other municipalities are, so I meant to ask you, so.
Yes, we are.
We are.
Yeah, I would say, so Amazon is and has been remitting for a while, and you'll see Walmart.com, BestBuy.com, some increases in, those types of remitters, I guess, of the sales tax, so, yeah.
And it's just pretty much an arbitrary number, not really based on?
Well, it's based on their
actual
the sales to Northglenn. So if, yeah.
Okay, as I heard other municipalities kind of say something, you're shaking your head. Is there?
Well, no, and one of the issues CML and the state is looking at is how to implement what's called the Wayfarer decision. So the recent United States Supreme Court decision that talks about the local taxing of online retailers. So Amazon has been, and others have been remitting voluntarily for quite some time, but the state just issued emergency rules. CML is getting the finance directors, the sales tax folks together to look at how the home rule municipalities are going to try to be consistent in how they adopt similar rules. So there's going to be a shift over time, but a lot of the bigger retailers have been doing it voluntarily.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank
Okay.
you, Jason. Are there any other questions? Thank you. Thank you. All right, we will move to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Yes.
All right, I'll close that vote. And the
It says
consent.
my vote is closed.
Okay. The consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we have one public hearing tonight. I will open that public hearing. It is on the 2019 proposed budget. Is there anyone present who would like to speak on the 2019 proposed budget? Seeing no one come forward, I will close that public hearing. And this will be coming to council on, what was the date? I know I had it, and now I don't have it.
October 22nd, Mayor.
October 22nd. Okay, so that'll come back for council consideration and adoption on October 22nd. Thank you. All right, we will move to ordinances first reading. We have CB 1915. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance considering the initiated ordinance regarding the Croak Reservoir, approving the same with changes that do not substantially alter the general character of the initiated ordinance to implement those portions of the ordinance, of the initiated ordinance, consistent with the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter and Colorado law.
Move for approval.
Second.
Heather, would you like to share the background on this one?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The item before you this evening really does 5 things to simplify it. First, this ordinance will designate the Croak Reservoir as a nature area. The second is to establish the maintenance of water quality. The third is continued coordination with the Colorado Division of Wildlife in terms of stocking Croak Reservoir with fish and continuing to conduct fish wildlife surveys. Also, continuation of city budget in terms of requiring staff to track the monies spent to support Croak Reservoir. And then the fifth, which is probably the newest item for the public's benefit, is the creation of a subcommittee as part of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. And this subcommittee will be created to bring together a group of residents who have an interest in Croak Reservoir and the qualities that I outlined above. And there won't be any sort of time obligation put on this subcommittee. And with the pending approval of this ordinance, the subcommittee would, we would set in motion the creation of that subcommittee in November by bringing the item to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. And Amanda Peterson's here this evening, and she can assist with answering any specific questions that you might have about this proposed ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Council have any questions?
Can I have a clarifying question? So for the subcommittee, is there a minimum number of residents who have to be involved before it gets disbanded? Or whatever? So if there's one person who wants to be part of the subcommittee, then that person is the subcommittee, technically?
Well, we don't have a minimum number of residents, but I would say, and Corey, you can jump in here and correct me, we'd probably want more than one resident to serve on the subcommittee.
And that's precisely why we built in the flexibility. So if it's not providing any value, there's not interest in the community, then it doesn't need to go through a formal dissolution process.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's okay. I'm just wondering, for the subcommittee, is it going to be like some of our other boards and commissions where we have representatives from each ward, or is it just an open subcommittee?
It is intended to be an open subcommittee and provide the maximum flexibility for those people that are interested.
Okay, thank you very much, Corey.
Jenny?
Thank you. Quick clarification as well. The way that it's written, it insinuates that the Parks and Rec Advisory Board gets to determine how they want to form that subcommittee, how they want to invite members, and how the Parks and Rec Advisory Board will set the agenda and kind of oversee the management of that subcommittee. Is that correct? Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a question in that, so the $6,000 for the work for the state engineer's office application, that's 2018 expense? But
Correct.
The permanent gauge, staff gauge, that's a 2019 item, and I'm wondering why it's not being included in the 2019 budget.
Because we can absorb, based on the funds available, or proposed, I should say, in 2019, we have the flexibility within the operating budget to go ahead and absorb the $10,000. So we don't need to amend the budget. Tammy is here, and I don't know if you want to speak more specifically to that.
I understand that you can do that. I'm just saying $10,000. Maybe it was an item that could have been included since we haven't ratified the budget yet or adopted the budget. That's all. But
We
not a big
can.
deal.
No, we can certainly do that. I don't want to use the term miscellaneous account, but could you clarify what account you're thinking we can absorb that cost from?
Sure. So the water resources budget has a line item for water rights and the acquisition of water rights, and use basically facilities that pertain to our water rights. Since we are going through the application process for this augmentation plan for Croak Reservoir, we can absorb that $10,000 into that budget line item. It's a pretty substantial line item at this juncture. It's generally it's got about $1 million a year in there. So $10,000 isn't going to be much more than a drop in that budget. And the reason we're not doing this $10,000 work in 2019 is it's going to require some more significant engineering and some additional work to be done inside Croak Reservoir. We're going to have to put up some berms and drain a section of the reservoir in order to be able to put that permanent staff gauge in. So we're doing the stuff that's easy and quick for 2018 so that we're in compliance with the state engineer's office, and then we'll move forward with the bigger projects in 2019.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
Sure.
Tammy.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? Seeing none, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Yes.
I want to yell too.
Was that all?
Can we all just yell at Joanna?
Yes.
and
Yes.
CB 1915 on first reading passes unanimously. And I would like to note for the record that the public hearing on CB 1915 will be held on October 22nd, 2018, here in City Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you, Joanna. All right, we will move to resolutions, starting with CR 118. Joanna, the title, please.
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of Northglenn and J&T Consulting Incorporated for the 2018 Small Storm Drainage Repairs Project.
Move to approve. Second.
Heather?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Interim Public Works Director Kent Kisselman is here this evening, and he can speak to the specific locations that will make up this contractual work this evening if you have any questions.
Are there questions from council? None? All right, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote. We all do it. Yes.
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 I'll close that vote, and CR 118 passes unanimously.
Okay. We move to CR 119. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and ECI Site Construction Management for the Northwest Open Space Improvements Phase 1 project.
Move to approve. Second.
Heather?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This evening we have Amanda Peterson with us. And Amanda, if you would, just for the record, share an overview of this contract and what's involved in it, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Peterson, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. You have 4 Parks and Recreation resolutions in front of you, so I'm going to talk about them a little bit together because they're more connected than what we usually see. This first one here is for the general contractor for Northwest Open Space for all of the Phase 1 improvements. So that includes the coordination of some items that we're purchasing outright through a purchasing agreement so that we could minimize our cost on those as much as possible. So this first resolution in front of you is with ECI to do the Phase 1 improvements, which include the installation and management of the installation process for the new concession and restroom facility, the realignment of trails, the new and expanded parking lot space, and then the associated irrigation and drainage that's in that area of Phase 1, which is really the central portion of Northwest Open Space. The next one that you will see in front of you, and I'm happy to come back up and answer additional questions when we get there, but just to go through, we'll have then a general contractor for Gowanus, and then we'll have 2 outright purchases. One is with CXT, and that is one of the 2 buildings is for Northwest, the other is for Gowanus. Again, by purchasing those outright, we're able to get a better price on those. And then the last one will be just Gowanus, again, and it's an outright purchase.
So there's probably going to be questions, so you might as well
Absolutely.
Just stay
I will
where
stay
you
right where
are
I'm at
for a few of these. We're going to start with CR 119, obviously the Northwest Open Space Contract Award. Are there any questions?
I guess the only question that I have is actually on what side of the park are you doing the expanded parking lot?
On the south side of where the existing parking lot is on the south side, you know where the playground sits currently? So it'll extend back towards where the playground is, and the playground will be relocated.
Okay, and how many extra spots?
I'm going to make Dana come up because I don't remember that number.
I was just curious. I think it's 75 spaces, it says.
It's approximately doubling the parking that's there now.
Okay, great, thanks.
Other questions? So Amanda, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So since we're purchasing these buildings and it goes to the other contracts that are in here from that CXP directly, can you just kind of explain, you've explained that there's a substantial savings. Can you say what the savings is when we purchase it as opposed to the contractor?
So if we do it through the contractor, we automatically get a markup there. So what we're saving is 1, that markup, and then 2, I believe it was an additional 5% by purchasing both the buildings for both projects together, which have 2 separate general contractors. So those general contractors would not have purchased the buildings together.
And I was just going to comment that, 2.8 is a lot of money, and when I look through everything that they're going to provide, and I understand they came in at a good price, but can you just kind of explain an overview, besides for the buildings, what work they're going to be doing on the grounds besides the parking lot?
So there's a fair amount of earthwork with this project and a lot of detail. We have to improve our drainage on the site, which includes a crossing of Farmers Highline Canal, a new detention pond on the north side of Farmers Highline Canal. So that is one piece of it, is making sure that site drains where it's supposed to. Right now we get puddling on fields, we get puddling near our irrigation boxes, we have low spots, so that'll help move that water through, and then under the Farmers Highline and daylighting on the other side of that. All of the asphalt trails that are in that space will be replaced with a wider concrete trail that's able to withstand the traffic of, we will still have some portalets in that space. We won't have enough permanent restrooms. So we're still going to have portalet traffic. We're still going to have maintenance traffic through there. So we want to make sure that that concrete is able to withstand the traffic and be wide enough to handle that traffic. Any of the irrigation that's disrupted through that process, which is pretty significant, will be realigned, and then valves, boxes, and backflows placed as appropriate. The coordination, like you said, of the CXT building on that site, all of the site work to prepare for that building to be installed, all of the plumbing. We don't have any potable water on that site. Nor sewer. So we have to get water and sewer in from I believe we're coming in from the west side of the property, which is a pretty significant run.
Thank you. Makes more sense now. So I am wondering, so this is phase 1. Can you just remind me what phase 2 will consist of?
Phase 2 is very similar on each side of the property, but without the parking and without the concession and restroom area.
And do we have the funding source?
We do not have funding for phases 2 and 3. Dana is working on being creative with potential grant opportunities, but they're not currently funded.
Thank you. That's it for me. Does anybody else have any other questions? No? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Yes.
I'll close that vote, and CR 119 passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we will move to CR 120, which is the Kiwanis Bathhouse and Splash Pad Contract Award.
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and Krish Construction Incorporated for the Kiwanis Bathhouse and Splash Pad project.
Move for approval. Second.
All right. So does anyone have questions for Amanda on this project? And would you like to give us a little overview of what we're doing at Kiwanis, please?
Sure. So this project has two primary components. One is replacing the very aging bathhouse with a new structure, which is very exciting. And two is adding a splash pad to the space, which should greatly increase the engagement of users of that facility. That splash pad, based on public engagement, was determined to be a nature-themed space. And I'm going to look at my notes here, or the memo here, because I can't remember exactly how big they are. And I know I wrote them down. I don't know where I wrote it down at.
It's in the background.
Oh, it's in the Vortex memo, but I believe we have a 12-foot flower and a gigantic frog. You can actually walk under the frog, and he sprays over the top. So they're very above-ground interactive features. It's not a pop-up splash pad like what we have at EB Rains. It's going to be fully on, and it's zoned so that kind of from one end to the other, you go from the little tiny kids that are playing with bubblers all the way to the bigger kids that have more interactive pieces.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Sounds awesome.
It does.
Really can't wait to play.
No questions, Joanna? Would you open the vote, please?
No, vote is open.
Vote.
Yes.
No age limit.
Yes.
I'll close that vote, and CR 120 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will move to CR 121. Joanna, would you read the title, please?
A resolution to authorize the city manager to issue a purchase order to CXT Concrete Buildings for a total amount not to exceed $883,958.56 for prefabricated buildings for the Northwest Open Space Improvements and Kiwanis Bathhouse and Splash Pad Project.
Second.
Heather, did you want? Yes, Amanda. Can you come forward, please, Amanda?
Of course.
You want to just explain this really quickly?
So again, this one is the outright purchase of the CXT buildings. So it'll be for both projects, both Kiwanis and Northwest Open Space, for a total of 3 separate buildings.
Are there any questions?
That's okay.
So in these buildings, in the back, it looked like there is a shower in the, it's not the concession, but it's just in the building. There's a shower in each one. I understand the shower at Kiwanis. There's a shower in the one at Northwest Open Space?
There is not.
There's not,
So,
okay,
and there's a space separating those. So you've got the restroom portion, a space, and then a concession portion. So they're very different parts of the building.
Okay, got it. That's okay.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I thought you would.
I just read it wrong. I think it was just listing all of the things you could have.
Okay.
Yes. All right, are there any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Amanda. Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Like Christmas in Parks and Rec.
I know.
I'll close that vote, and CR 121 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move to CR 122. Joanna, would you read the title?
A resolution to authorize the city manager to issue a purchase order to Vortex for a total amount not to exceed $198,349.25 for splash pad equipment and play elements for the Kiwanis Bathhouse and Splash Pad Project.
Move for approval.
Second.
Amanda, are there any questions for Amanda?
No, we're having a flower and frog.
I know, we see all these fun things on
And
here.
a snail.
We're very excited about
It should be pretty exciting once, and we should be open for next season.
I know, that's
Awesome.
very
So
good.
better.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Seeing no questions, Joanna, would you open the vote, please?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 122 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we move to a discussion item this evening. We have water conservation rebate and water supply update with Tammy Moon. Hey, Tammy.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thanks so much for having me this evening. I wanted to give you a couple of updates and ask for direction from City Council on 2 items. The first being water rebates, water conservation rebates, and the second item being some just kind of go ahead forward with the water waste to water guidelines that we had enacted back in 2017. So I'm going to start with I guess I'm going to start with the easy one first, the waste of water and the water supply update. So this awesome weather, love the moisture, makes me pretty excited and gives me a little bit of relief. However, the Colorado Division of Natural Resources and their Water Availability Task Force came out at the end of September and said that 2018 was the 4th most significant drought in Colorado history. So we're looking at some pretty tight water supplies here at the end of 2017 going into 2018. While we're doing okay. It causes me some pause, and as we're looking forward into productions into the spring, we do have a decreased amount of supply in Stanley Lake, and with Clear Creek being so low in flows, we're really concerned about what we're going to be able to take off the river during the winter months and filling our storage in Stanley Lake. So our 2 partners in Stanley Lake, cities of Thornton and Westminster, both their city councils over the last month have enacted some drought planning initiatives. City of Thornton City Council declared phase 1 drought which is asking their residents to do voluntary water restrictions. City of Westminster followed suit a couple weeks later with a similar type of measure asking for voluntary restrictions from their residents. In July of 2017, City Council authorized some waste of water guidelines and some fees associated to violating those waste of water guidelines. And simply today, I'm asking for the City Council to go ahead and give the city manager and staff the authority to continue enforcing on those waste of water guidelines. I provided the memo from 2017 for your reference as far as what those guidelines look like and what those fees look like. There's no action necessary at this time from the City Council, and as supplies change, we probably will look at either more strict regulations and maybe mandatory restrictions if things don't get better, or relaxing on these guidelines if we get a windfall of water over the spring and the fall and the winter. So nothing major, just some guidelines and some okay to continue doing what we've been doing on the water supply side.
Okay, so does council have any questions on the waste of water ordinance, or, yes, go ahead, Meredith.
Thank you. So a couple things I was thinking about. I was looking at the recommendation section. So is it code enforcement that'll do the fines?
That's correct. So they have, code enforcement already has a process for the first step is a warning. They leave a little kind of warning door hanger on the residence door, letting them know that we do have waste of water guidelines in effect, and then progressively those fines and enforcement go up.
Okay. So I was looking at some of, and then thinking about myself.
Sure.
And how sometimes I forget, and it's terrible. But the watering during rain, so if my sprinklers are set and I'm not at home and it starts raining, am I going to get a fine?
Not the first time, and I think that's kind of where our water rebate discussion will play into that. You know, we would hope that residents, if you're home, take the time to turn it off. If you're not home, I think our code enforcement is pretty good about that kind of thing. But you know, there's those folks that are watering in the middle of the evening, and they're sitting on their lawn, and it's sitting in their front porch or on their back porch, and it's raining, and their neighbors say, "Oh my gosh, your lawn is on, your sprinklers are on, and it's raining." So yeah, it's just kind of a waste of our supply when those kind of things come about.
I just think about, I use my sprinkler system when I'm out of town.
Sure.
So if I'm somewhere else, then I have no idea it's raining.
Right.
That could be a bummer. And then, how do you limit residents to 2 days a week?
You know, it's kind of one of those kind of neighbor reporting things, and code enforcement, since they're out on a daily basis throughout our community, they kind of see those folks. They're driving around, and they'll notice the people that are watering every day. It's pretty obvious, those folks that are watering a lot and watering every day, to our code enforcement people who are seeing homes on a regular basis.
Okay. Jenny?
Thank you. Tammy, thanks for being here tonight and bringing all of this to our attention. Based on what you're seeing and specifically with the concerns of this being such a significant drought, are we doing enough, or are we just following suit with what our neighbors are doing?
Sure. So my professional opinion, yes, right now we're doing fine, and we are at the end of the season. So we're going to start seeing folks turning off their sprinkler systems, and we're going to get some reduced demands coming into the fall and the winter. So I think for now, this is a good measure, and I think it kind of catches those folks who are still watering their lawn into November, or like to wash off their driveways, or do those sorts of activities that aren't particularly helpful to our supply. It's also a good starting point going into the spring. So when we, as we're watching our supplies over the winter and going into the spring, if we see that we haven't gotten the snowpack and the rainfall that we'd like to see, this gives us a jumping point to doing more come the spring.
Okay, that's great. And then my second question is, how have we traditionally let residents know about this? And what efforts are we going to be implementing moving forward, should council agree to move forward in this direction?
Sure. So I work with the communications department. We use the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, those sorts of social media. We use the Connection newspaper, and then the website is also a big spot for us to put that. That's one of those banner items that communications has typically put on the front page for us when we are reminding residents that we have these sorts of policies in our ordinance.
Have we ever done anything like add an insert into water bills or have some sort of box pop up on our screen when somebody's paying online?
We do have the opportunity to do some messaging. We haven't done bill stuffers in the past because of the cost and
sure.
That sort of thing. I'm not aware of a pop-up box when you're paying your bill, but I'm sure that that's something that we can look into with utility billing in that group as well. So.
Great. Well, I appreciate you bringing this to us. I think it's critically important that we move forward.
Julie? So I see that in 2018 we budgeted $15,000 for rebates, and we're continuing to do the same thing for 2019. How much of that $15,000 did we actually bring? How many people asked for rebates?
So, hang on. I was going to talk about that in the next section here on the rebates.
Oh, okay, sorry, I jumped ahead.
Yes, but that's okay. So typically we're looking at about 60 to 70 people asking for rebates on washing machines and about 100 people getting rebates on toilets. And right now we are only giving rebates on washing machines and toilets.
Oh.
So right now we're at about $7,000 of that $15,000 expended. We're pretty much through the year on those rebates. So that's a significant decrease in washing machines and toilet rebates. And so this is kind of an ideal time for us to start looking at some outdoor irrigation rebates.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Question. Tammy, I'm wondering, how is commercial and the apartments responding to these restrictions?
Actually, Code has gotten some really good response from our apartment complexes and our commercial folks. Apartment complexes have kind of a challenge in regards to the number of dogs is their problem with their turf, and so they water heavier than we would normally water residential and city property because they have such a high amount of pet waste on their lawns, and so they overwater. But we've gotten very good response, and we are seeing a slight decrease in use in our commercial and our apartment complexes, which is optimistic.
Thank you.
Okay, so first, can we get consensus from council to continue enforcing the waste of water ordinance, and then Tammy can continue on with the other topics?
Absolutely. We have to.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. You're okay with that?
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the next item, we had a resident, Mr. Taylor here from Ward 4. He came to City Council and asked about rebates for turf replacement and what kind of rebates the city would offer or could consider offering for turf replacement. And kind of hand in hand with that, I looked at outdoor irrigation products that we could give rebates for. So I went and did some research at council's request on rebates in regards to irrigation products and turf replacement. I looked at programs that are currently being done by the City of Arvada, Aurora, Boulder, Brighton, Broomfield, Castle Rock, Denver Water, Inglewood, Erie, Lafayette, Louisville, Thornton, Westminster, and Wheat Ridge. These are folks that are either larger to us, our neighbors, or similar in size, and what kind of rebates they're providing for their residents as far as turf replacement and irrigation products. Right now, turf replacements are not as common within other municipalities as other types of irrigation products, things like sprinkler timers, rotary, low flow rotary, sprinkler heads, rain barrels, that kind of stuff. So the only rebates that are offered, the only folks that are offering rebates for turf replacement are Aurora, Boulder, Castle Rock, Lafayette, and Thornton. Rebates, all of these communities are providing rebates for residents to replace using xeric landscaping, low water, native or natural plants. And then let's see, cities of Thornton And a couple others are also providing rebates for folks who want to take out their lawn and put in permeable hardscapes such as pavers, decks, or patios. So that's kind of where we're looking. The City of Thornton is right now the only municipal agency in the metro area that is providing rebates for or will allow for turf replacement with artificial turf as part of their rebate program. So what, following my research and kind of looking at what everyone else is doing, I kind of want to present some rebate options that the City Council would consider that we go forward with. The first one I'll talk about is the turf replacement. Turf replacement, consistently with the other municipalities that I surveyed, is $1 per square foot, with a minimum of 200 square feet and a maximum of about 1,000 square feet. City of Aurora does provide up to a maximum of up to 1,500 square feet of replacement. To give you an idea, 200 square feet is a pretty good size flower garden or a vegetable garden. 1,000 square feet is pretty much an entire front yard or backyard in Northglenn. So that's pretty much removing all of your turf for 1,000 square feet here in Northglenn. So that's a pretty substantial replacement. So we would recommend for turf replacement a similar pilot program for the 2019 period using the existing funds that we have at $1 per square feet replacement, 200 square feet minimum, 1,000 square feet maximum, and we would like to designate that as a pilot program for 5 yards or up to $5,000 worth of rebates. If we can squeeze in more than 5 yards because somebody's doing only 200 or somebody else is doing 500, we would look at that, but capping the 2019 turf replacement at $5,000. As part of this pilot program, we would develop a application process that would require residents to provide design and the products that they are going to put in, including plants and hardscape, look at their decking, and then based on those plans, we would approve that, and then once construction is completed, Public Works staff would come out and inspect that the final product is the same as what the design is. And that's consistent with what other communities are doing for their rebate programs for turf replacement. City of Lafayette has a very robust program that requires residents to actually go through a couple of classes before they will apply a rebate for turf replacement. So that is the demand, and then we'll base our 2020 funding for turf replacements based on kind of what that demand looks like and if that program really works or what's going to fit best within our budget. So we'd like to use 2019 as a pilot year. Then going forward in those rebates, kind of hand in hand with those turf replacements, it doesn't do much good to put in a xeriscape garden if you're still going to be using high demand, low efficiency irrigation equipment. So we'd like to recommend rebates for up to $3 each for rotary sprinkler heads, up to 25 heads per residence. $100 per timer for new irrigation timers. Those timers would need to be WaterSense labeled or listed on the EPA website. And that would be 1 timer per household every 10 years. Rebates were something that came about in this group last year, and so we would like to provide 1 rebate of $50 per address per 5 years for a rain barrel. And then finally the turf replacement rebates. I think we can fit this easily into our current rebate program and the funds that we have at the $15,000 level. Like all the other communities that I mentioned, it would be a first come, first serve rebate program. Once the rebate funds, that $15,000 are gone, we would stop providing rebates through the end of the year, and kind of that gives us a good basis for looking forward into the future and planning what really what our need for rebates is going forward into 2020 and beyond.
Questions on the rebate? Okay.
I do. I'm just wondering, you spoke about the turf replacement, that you'd like to bump that up, capping it at 5,000?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
What, I'm sorry, well, what made you choose 5,000 versus what the other the other municipalities are doing?
You know, I'm just not sure what our demand is going to look like, and I don't want to, we only have $15,000 in that budget right now for rebates, and I don't want to give all of my rebate money to folks to replace their yards. I want to be able to have a little bit of flexibility as far as being able to still give toilets and washers and these new sprinkler irrigation products. Additionally, you know, I don't want to see kind of what that demand on staff time looks like for, you know, evaluating applications and looking at designs and then going back out and doing the inspections and that sort of thing. So it's really kind of don't really want to jump full on head first into that program, kind of want to make sure that we're prepared and we know that the program that we develop is good and it will be sustainable.
I would like to see that the first year out the gate, the cap not be at 5,000. I think that we risk possibly running out of money with just a couple people doing turf, you know, in the city. And then it would take away from all the other rebates.
Okay.
So my suggestion is I would like to see it capped back at 2,500.
Okay.
That's just my preference, so that we still have enough money in that $15,000 budget to cover the other things that we have.
Sure.
Other questions?
I do want to cover one more thing. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Oh, I'm sure. No.
Sorry. Zach had asked about why we were not going to include artificial turf in the rebate program. I did a lot of research. Thornton is the only municipality in the area that's providing allowing for artificial turf as an option in their rebate program. Artificial turf looks cool, it looks great. There's some really beautiful products out there that when you install them look amazing. However, they have some additional environmental concerns that we need to consider as a municipality, and I think that they're substantial enough from my perspective that we don't want to encourage tons of residents to start putting in artificial turf. The first one, directly related to our water rights, we have a part of our water rights called lawn irrigation return flows, and those are directly related to the amount of water that percolates down into the groundwater from watering your lawn. And we get credits within our water rights and our augmentation plans for those lawn irrigation return flows. Artificial turf does not allow the same amount of water to percolate into the groundwater that regular grass or xeriscape or permeable hardscape does. So we're altering our water rights when we allow large quantities of artificial turf. So that's the first thing. We get some stormwater impacts with additional runoff into our storm drains, so we're looking at more runoff into our storm systems, our storm drain system that's already aging. That creates additional impact on that aging infrastructure. Believe it or not, over time, artificial turf will degrade the quality of the soil beneath it. So if you as a homeowner put in your artificial turf and you sell your home and the next homeowner comes in and doesn't like the artificial turf and wants to put in regular grass or xeriscape gardening, they're going to have to do a substantial amount of work to get that soil back to a healthy condition to grow plants. There are landfill impacts. Artificial turf doesn't have a long life, so eventually it's going to have to be replaced. Most products right now are not recyclable, so all of that artificial turf gets wadded up and sent to the landfill. And then lastly, strangely, artificial turf is warm. In the summertime it gets hot, and when we start adding lots of artificial turf into a community like this, we get what's called microclimate warming. So in the summertime, in communities where you have a lot more artificial turf, you'll notice that the air temperatures are higher. And that leads to and contributes to global warming or climate change and just some weird climate things locally as well. So those are the reasons why we're just not comfortable using artificial turf as a replacement for our normal bluegrass.
Zach, how do you feel about those? Those are some pretty compelling arguments.
More research than I did. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Are there more questions for Tammy? Jenny?
Thank you. Not a question, just a huge thank you. I know Zach brought this up just before our summer board meeting, Antonio and I. and we sent it over your way. And I appreciate all of the research that you have done and how thoughtful you've been in building a program that not just works for your department, but I think works for our community and can potentially lead to more. Particularly, I'm excited about, just beyond the turf replacement, the fact that we're also thinking about our water irrigation systems. I think it's great that we're including rain barrels, especially because that is something newer that residents can take advantage of when being able to water their gardens or some of their other areas in their backyard or front yard. So I really think that the pilot program should stay at $5,000 and we should reassess in the future. And just again, a heartfelt thank you for moving forward and being responsive.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this to council. I think it's very important for our community, and so thank you.
Questions? Julie? I have a question, but it's not for Tammy. I'm curious. I love this plan. Thank you so much for all the work you've done on it. And I think it's great to provide our residents these options. But another thing that I'm curious about is, do we have a plan or somewhere in place what the city is going to be doing moving forward when it comes to water conservation and monies that we may dedicate to, curbing our water addiction as well?
That's a great question, and it's one that I can't answer off the top of my head, but I could certainly talk with staff, director specifically, and come back to you all with what those specific steps will look like. And Tammy, you may be able to allude to some of them.
Sure, I can add a little bit to that. So I've been working very closely with our Parks Department as far as reducing the amount of watering that we're doing in our parks. And Amanda could probably speak more to that. In 2017, we actually did note about a 20% reduction in watering in our parks. And that was simply from just turning down the amount of time per zone that our Parks Department was watering. I know they also have plans for irrigation system improvements, and like a Northwest Open Space, I'm sure, has some of those improvements included. So I'll let Amanda talk about that.
Over the last couple of years, you've probably seen some expenditures in the capital improvement budget for central control, and I would say that's the one biggest measure we've taken. So trying to I'm not going to say fully, but more automate our system. So the past system, they were all manual clocks. So it was like when you go into your garage to manually turn your sprinkler off when it rains, we did that 100 times. And so we couldn't do it effectively and go in and change this clock and then go to this space and change this clock and go to that space and change that clock during a rainstorm or a rain event unless it was going to be for an extended period of time. Because by the time you got through all the clocks, it had stopped raining. So the new system allows staff to do that from an iPad or from a computer in their office and turn off the entire system all at once and turn the entire system back on all at once. So that really gained us an efficiency in being able to turn it off. We've also installed rain gauges at the larger park spaces that will automatically turn those off or send a notification to staff. They can even do it remotely, so the on-call staff can get an alert if there's a system where we're seeing more water than we should be seeing, so it'll indicate if there's a break or some other problem with our system, even if that happens overnight or on the weekend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do also want to point out that we have the Garden in the Box program that we've been offering to residents, and over the last 2 years, our Parks Department has also supported that Garden in the Box program by replacing some of their annual flower beds within the city to those Garden in a Box xeriscape perennial beds. So that's another way we're really showing residents that we have some good products and opportunities for them to save water within their yards as well.
Thank you.
And Slow the Flow gets huge recommendations in Fox Run. I've had a lot of neighbors have used it, and they love the auditors that come out, and they've really helped them save money too. So that's a great program also. Marcy.
So just to clarify, we had $7,000 that was for the washers and toilets, right?
That's what we've spent so far. That's what we did this year. Mm-hmm.
And so I think I'm good with the 5,000, just because 5,000 of that, I mean, still leaves a good chunk for the washers and toilets.
Is council okay with leaving it at 5,000? Becky mentioned going to 2,500.
I thought we were bumping it up to 5,000. Yeah, we were at 2,500. We were bumping up to 5,000.
Yep.
Yeah, if everybody else is okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Do you need consensus to continue with the rebate program or not?
I would like consensus from City Council to go ahead and add the additional items, the rotary sprinkler, the irrigation timer, the rain barrels, and the turf replacement to our existing washing machines and toilets, please.
Is there consensus?
Yes.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Tammy, I'm wondering if you can tell us what the indicators are for our neighboring cities that they enter into a stage 1 drought response and why they do it and we don't. So what would be the difference?
So really for them, it has to do with their water supply. We are fortunate this year, we didn't need to go into that phase 1 drought response because we did get the substitute water supply plan to start using the FRICO Stanley shares that are in the water court process right now. So that gave us about a little over 2,000 acre feet of additional water supply that we haven't had. So that's kind of given us a little bit of a cushion. We feel confident that what we have between the substitute water supply and all of our remaining water supply is sufficient enough to get us kind of into the spring without a whole lot of concern. Westminster and Thornton, their supplies are looking a little more tight as far as what they're holding in Stanley Lake and in their other buckets. So that's really their driver, and not to mention looking at demands and kind of the outlook for what the spring could bring.
So it's just something that you're always watching, and we may enter into it next summer, who knows?
Sure, and if we are walking into, March and we've had a really dry winter, I may come back, I may want to come back to City Council and say, I think it's time for us to consider something more substantial than these waste of water guidelines for our residents, just to give us some comfort going into the spring and to make sure that we're not looking at drastic restrictions in the summertime.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments, Tammy? No. Thank you very much. These are all great things for the city, so we really appreciate
You're welcome.
your work. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, we will move to communications. Jenny, we'll start with you.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight? Okay.
Nothing for me either.
Wow. Marcy?
Go ahead. I'm going to leave it to you. I gave it to you. No, so we had our Ward 3 meeting, which was awesome. We had a great turnout. We had our annual barbecue. And so that was great to see everybody. Chief did a great job at giving our residents a personal tour of the Justice Center. I think the Justice Center was the huge draw. But we had a great Q&A session before that, and then we also talked about the zoning update. So it was a great afternoon on a Saturday. So it was, thanks for everyone who came out, and Marcy for my fellow council member we hit it hard. It was great. That's about it.
So I'll just tack on, thanks to Nate from the PD, who was our grill master, who was out there like the morning doing the grilling, so I greatly appreciate that. And to staff who also brought us trash cans, some extra stuff to make this happen. I definitely would say one of the things that we heard and we saw a lot of new faces was that Saturday made it possible for a lot of people that work evenings. So we got some good feedback on that. There's probably something that we'll incorporate. I think we also heard that 10 a.m. was kind of, a couple people said 10 a.m. was unideal, so maybe we'll try that. But I think it was probably one of the more positive meetings that we've had in receiving feedback, but sure, as everybody else up here can attest to, number one conversation was traffic. And as Heather brought forward this evening, Suki is definitely on the forefront of Ward 3 residents' minds. And so thank you, Heather, for your work on that. So I also wanted to just remind folks that we have the UDO code meetings, the Unified Development Ordinance meetings coming up. And those are next week. One is on the 17th at 2 p.m. and the other one is from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Justice Center. And I just want to remind you that you don't have to come to the meeting. You can go to newcodenorthglenn.org and view it, take a look at it. If you have questions, I know everybody in planning is super helpful in answering those questions, but I think it's just really important as residents for you to understand how it impacts you, and to give your input. There are things in there that I think, from my perspective, I want to hear what your opinions are on it. So please do that. And I guess that's it.
Yes, I just have a couple of things. First of the month, I attended the Mayor's Mingle, and I thought it was an excellent meeting, and I appreciate the support staff that was there to back up the mayor or support the mayor, however you want to word that. It's very important to have support staff because you never know what kind of questions you're going to field from the residents. So I really appreciated that. And then here last Thursday, I guess it was, we attended the dedication of the bench for Jordan Perlmutter and the Perlmutter family. And I mean, what an amazing guy and what an amazing family. I thought it was really great. That's all I can make.
Thank you. I would just piggyback off the Jordan Perlmutter bench dedication. They invited I'd say there were about 40 people there, family members, employees, friends, and honestly, they were just really welcoming and really wanted to share stories, so it was great to get to know them. And his wife her name is Essie, she was just amazing. So it was really well received by them. They appreciated so much that Northglenn was doing it. And Jordan Perlmutter, I'm not sure that that we'd all be here in this configuration right now if it wasn't for Jordan Perlmutter. So he really is a legacy for Northglenn, and he did receive the Legacy Award last year at the Business Breakfast. So yeah, that was a really nice event. And I did want to share, NAHF had their annual retreat last week, and we do a lot of things. We talk about existing programming that we see in the future. And one of the things that is a highlight is that in 2018, they broke records again with their revenues. Northglenn Arts will probably generate more than $120,000 in ticket and registration sales this year in 2018. And if you actually combine it with rentals and concessions, it will surpass $160,000. So to compare, last year we were at $157,000, so it's the highest that they've ever done. Just goes to show that Michael Stricker, his support staff of Nikki Marchese, Christopher Waller, Kimberly, John Janin, I'm probably going to forget somebody. Those are the main ones that I can think of. They do an amazing job with the programming and getting our theater, really good shows that people want to come see, and they work really hard and they work a lot of hours. So, props to them for doing such a good job this year, and I'm sure that they will continue to keep on outdoing themselves. So that was great. Remember? Okay, nope.
I actually don't have anything, just to thank people, all you great people that sent me the birthday well wishes. I appreciate it. Yes, that's where I was last Monday. I was celebrating my birthday. Thank you. And I think that's all I have.
Good. Nothing tonight.
Okay. No? Mayor, thank you. Joanna?
I do have just a quick update. The ballots for the November 6th general election will be sent out next week. So look for those in your mailbox. The county they have over 20 drop-off locations that will be available beginning October 15th. And then they'll have their early voter service and polling centers that will open on October 22nd. And they offer a whole host of services for voters. A new thing that they'll be doing this year is having what they are calling 2-day voter service and polling centers. So those will be 8 additional locations that will be open on Monday, November 5th, and then Tuesday, November 6th, on both days from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they're extending their hours and their locations for voters this year, and really just providing a lot of resources for voters. So just want to encourage everybody to take advantage of that.
Thank you. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just a quick update on the traffic concerns related to schools. Kent Kisselman and I met with the school district today. I decided not to, as I indicated in an email, use those meet and greet meetings with each of the principals, and we went ahead and scheduled the meeting for today. We will continue to meet with the school district. I think we made some headway this morning in really defining objectives. First and foremost, the city's taken a very proactive approach to a degree in responding to traffic safety related complaints and doing assessments. There are several schools that we have not yet assessed, and so that's information that we provided to the school district today, and we want to have a conversation with them about what we can do to have mutually agreeable criteria on what schools become the next priority. For example, Hillcrest is a school in Ward 4 that we've received multiple complaints about. So what's the plan in terms of moving forward with that school in particular? So just one piece there. We also met out at Stuckey Elementary School this morning. Several staff members and members from Adams 12 School District. We were on site at Stuckey to watch the traffic flow this morning. Staff will also be working with Adams 12 reps to watch the afternoon school flow at Stuckey. And I think moving forward, we're going to be doing this at several of the schools. What we found in the conversation this morning is there are certain schools that we've developed plans with, and unfortunately, just given the increase in traffic and the demands, that some of those plans aren't necessarily being followed to a T because it's not the best plan. And that's okay. Principals have had to make adjustments and do what they can to make sure that they have the most effective traffic flow. So without going into too much more detail, this is a work in progress, and my plan is to continue to work with Adams 12, and once we're at a better place to go ahead and bring that information back to council, we will share that with you and let you know how we're going to move forward. Staff is working on a couple of grant applications for safe routes to school. And just in the conversation this morning, we recognized the need to have better communication with the school district at the staffing level to make sure we're both on the same page and really working collaboratively to make sure we're putting in good projects and we're doing what we can to leverage funding. So just a quick update for you there.
Thank you so much for reaching out to the school district.
Amazing.
Obviously a huge concern for all of us, and that you're being proactive on that is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Corey?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight. You know what, I did remember my one thing. I just wanted to welcome Purple Moon Early Learning Center to Northglenn. So myself and Antonio and Jenny were all at their ribbon cutting. And what a great family that has opened this center. They really believe in treating the children as family, and they've put a lot of money into renovating Shepherd's Hall. It looks amazing. The space is just really beautiful and welcoming for kids. It looks like it'll do great business there. And I also liked hearing that staff was so helpful and integral in getting some very big issues satisfied for them to move in. So anyway, it was a very nice ribbon cutting, and I welcome them to North. So upon that, we have one more public invited to be heard, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Statements shall be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to come forward? Seeing no one, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.